Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs. This week we watched Fate Zero. The Fate media franchise consists of a number of adaptations and spin-offs of various media. While it originally began as a series of light novels, the franchise now includes multiple anime, manga, movies, drama CDs, and various genres of games. The original series, Fate Stay Night, began as a visual novel released as an eroge in 2004. Its main storyline was adapted into an anime in 2006, and a re-release of the visual novel without the sexual elements and featuring voice actors from the anime was released in 2007. Fate Zero is based on the prequel light novels to Fate Stay Night and aired in 2011 and 2012. Set 10 years before the first series, it features younger versions of the Fate Stay Night characters, their parents and relatives, as well as new characters. This anime depicts the events of the Fourth Holy Grail War, a secret magical tournament held in Fuyuki City, Japan. 7 magicians, known as Masters, summon servants, reincarnations of legendary souls and heroes from across time, to fight in a battle royale for the great prize. The winner obtains the Holy Grail, a magical legendary chalice capable of granting wishes. The main protagonist is known as a merciless mage killer who joins the tournament on behalf of his wife's family. We watched episodes 1, 9, and 14. Mav, you are not called Mav on this show. Hey, Chuck.
I answer to both.
Yeah, I know you do, but I think we've mostly called you Chuck in the past episodes, so I should probably keep it consistent.
Yes.
Chuck, you're the one who put it on the list, I believe.
I am the guilty
So-
party.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us about your connection to the series?
So we're going to go back in the Wayback Machine, kind of like this series does, except we're not going back to like 1986, the 1991, the 1994. We're just going to go back to 2014. And I was perusing Netflix. I had not been really watching anime for about 10 years at that point. In fact, it might have been exactly 10 years at that point. And I had just recently started a new job, and I was just on a random day off. I'm like, I need something to watch. Wasn't feeling particularly great, and I wanted to just kind of fall asleep to something real quick. And I saw this weird show on Netflix called Fate Zero, and it sounded really convoluted. I'm like, okay, sure, I can like turn my brain off for 10 seconds. After this starts rolling, I'll be asleep and I'll never feel worse for it. And that was, I want to say like 10 at night when I did that. And then I ended up realizing, oh, it's 4 in the morning and I've watched a good chunk of this show now, just because it really got its hooks into me. And that's honestly the series that kind of brought me back into anime, because even with what I'd seen previously, I hadn't seen something like this before. And it hooked me. It was probably also my first real introduction into the big word known as grimdark. Because it kind of gets there with its overall feel and narrative with this particular series, this particular section of the Fate universe. And it was such a different breath of air for me. And I'm like, okay, cool. Wow, it's tragic. But there's this line, a little line from Doctor Who that kind of applies to this almost. Like, sad is just happy for deep people. I am not deep. But it kind of feels that way. It's just like, I get what it's saying. This is not a happy ending kind of show. But it's real. It was at the time, and to me, it still kind of is very engaging. just with the way it plays politics, I've heard people throw around. I don't appreciate this as much as others do. The reference of this is anime's Game of Thrones. And like, I get what they're going with. I don't necessarily agree with the exact one to one, but in general tone, I get it, and wouldn't say they're necessarily wrong. But yeah, this was just something completely different than I'd ever experienced with anime, and gave me the real pull to come back. It's like, okay, if there is this, what else has come about that I don't know about? So this is kind of why we're all here. This is what brought me back. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having these conversations.
We would. It just wouldn't be about Fate Zero.
And Bob would be free.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I can see the joy in your face from here, buddy.
I don't know what you mean.
And
When did this show come out? Was it in 2014?
No, this had already aired by then. I want to say it was like 2010 or 12.
Yeah, this is 11 and 12.
Okay. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, and like it was on Netflix with a pretty quick turnaround and sub and dub, and I'm like, wow, that's
Good for them.
Yeah, retrospectively, wow, that's pretty fast. But yeah, I'll be honest. I every so often, I just get the urge to go back and watch this, and it really does hit differently knowing where things go, as opposed to like even the first couple of times I watched this through, trying to understand what was happening, what I was seeing, and putting all the concepts and threads together.
So you watched this before you saw Stay Night?
Yes, actually, this is my first experience to Fate. Period.
Well, not everyone believes in fate.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize. Actually, Bob, a good friend of ours, our friend who's responsible for us meeting, he and I remember specifically you were there when I was talking to him about it, because it was back when we used to play Halo with another friend just to beat each other with grav hammers. And I was talking to him about it, and he was like, "Yeah, no, I've seen that," but then he mentioned certain characters were different than what were in this series. So I'm like, I really thought, I was like, he either didn't watch it or doesn't know what he's talking about, and that's how I learned of Fate Stay Night, is because of him.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's amusing to me because like watching this, and we have friends who are into Fate stuff in various ways, whether it's through the games or the shows or whatever. Um, so like I'm like aware of it, and watching this, it was like very apparent to me that they were making this specifically for fans of Fate Stay Night.
Hmm.
Like it's very much has that tone, not really tone, but like it's like it just feels very much like, hey, this is for you specifically.
Yeah, and again, retrospectively, I I don't know how this was able to sink its hooks into me outside of like it definitely filled this itch of like I want something with like maybe some kind of intrigue, not necessarily political, but definitely someone trying to make power plays and people thinking they're playing 3D chess with each other. And that just kind of scratched that itch. And otherwise, I don't think I ever would have seen Fate, period, Stay Night or otherwise.
I was worried there was another part of the show.
I mean,
There
arguably.
is kind of
Fate Zero, Fate Stay
there's
Night, Fate
there's
period.
more. There are more fates.
Bob, I'll have to send you a
I'm
very
aware.
funny video. Just
Don't threaten
go
me
ahead.
like that.
No, it's like maybe a couple minutes, but don't worry about it. Yeah, no, it's like there's a disgustingly
Do you
expansive
like
universe.
do you like gotcha games? There's a gotcha game.
What?
I was going to say the gotcha game's
I don't-
actually the main thing
I
that
don't
I know
even know
about
what
this
that
show.
means. What's a gotcha game?
It's a gachapon.
I got
It's
your money.
like a gumball machine. It's when you
Oh,
you know
okay, thank you.
get characters
Yep, yep, yep.
randomly, more or less. Which
You want
Okay,
to
yeah.
spend money on digital objects you can never truly own?
it's really funny to me because in the first episode, to kind of start getting into it, when they're describing some of the setup, It was very much like,
hmm
oh, this sounds like you're trying to explain, to give a
A video
narrative
game?
to specifically like gotcha random pull mechanics. Oh, is this based
hmm
on the game? And it was not based on that game, to my surprise, but it was just like, oh, I smell the stench of a game adaptation on this anime.
Both
You,
at a certain point, I was like, choose your character.
yeah. I almost feel like this was like a self-fulfilling prophecy of the inevitable gotcha game. Watching this again.
Well, I'm sure we will talk more about the games as we get to final thoughts, but how about we get right into the first episode?
Sounds good.
Season 1, Episode 1, The Summoning of Heroes.
So the Summoning of Heroes opens up the future or the current time, one of the two.
The
I never
past.
really caught on. Is it the past?
The past of the future. Yeah, it's 8 years
What?
ago from the events of the series.
It
Ah,
starts in 1986, if it helps.
no. But thank you. It just opens with this guy who's really sad because he has my problem of not wanting to hold babies.
Even
But
his
his
own baby.
but his wife is like, "No, it's okay. I know you're gonna kill me, but hold the child anyway because of our future." And he's like, "I'm assuming fine." But I think it closes out with him holding the baby.
The thing that caught my attention in this scene was the fact that the room was fucking huge and had nothing in it. So it's just like this
It had
four-poster
a
bed.
bed.
Yeah, it had the four-poster bed, but then it just had like stone wall, stone floor, and it was expansive and there was nothing else in it. And all I could think about was this castle is during a snowstorm up in the mountains somewhere. Like that room must be fucking cold.
Well, she had either a large blanket or that was just her dress. One of the two. That was hard to discern. But
I
Okay,
mean,
no, those both.
she has white hair, so maybe she's some sort of ice princess.
let it go.
Would you like me to tell you what she is?
No.
Okay. I mean, they don't make any secret about it.
No, I know. Like we learned she's like of the mage family or whatever, but like it was just really funny to me that the
Um,
room is so cold.
I mean, she's a homunculus.
You're a homunculus.
You know, I was going to say there was something about her that, like, she almost looks like she has a different art style from the rest of the characters.
Yeah, they kind of cover it in a roundabout way in here, but the Einsburn family, which she is representative of, kind of alchemied themselves out of the gene pool. Is the very short and semi-accurate, but not totally way of describing it. It's the simplest way possible.
That's fantastic. I love hearing Darwinism at work.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever been so committed to pursuit of a certain thing that you just took your whole family line out of the gene pool collectively?
Which is normal.
Okay, but
No.
okay. Is that baby also some kind of homunculus? Because they were definitely talking about, like, well, you know,
I mean, it would have to be.
it's technically
She
not
is
my
half
kid.
homunculus. Yeah. No, it's
Oh.
half homunculus, and having seen the actual source, and then I would call the better version of Fate Stay Night, Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, the series. I have to make that point because they made a movie by the same
Oh,
title.
good lord.
Yeah, Bob, like I said, there's a headache that comes with this show if you actually try to follow it beyond
And
it.
here I was trying to keep up with the story for Kingdom Hearts.
But yeah, short
We're-
version is
we're
she's
gonna
half
talk
homunculus
about that.
and it's relevant. Yeah. This gives Kingdom Hearts a run for its money if you look closely enough.
It kind of jumped
even
out
not
at
that
me,
close.
but
You don't gotta look that closely.
Yeah, so I was like, not really that closely, but it's like if you put the two side by side, it's almost a complete Spider-Man meme.
Anyway, pressing on, like fashionable nails, we move forward or backwards in time. This is one
Forward
of those.
5 years.
I'm
Yeah,
going to stand by the fact that that's one of the things I don't like is this weird timey thing. I got there trying to introduce all of the 100,000 characters that we have to become
Mhm.
involved with.
Yeah, they're trying to like
But-
set it all up before you get to the start of the actual
Yeah.
battle royale. So yeah,
I
this
just-
is 3
flippy-floppy.
years ago. So 5 years after that baby was born.
1991, before the
yes.
X-Men cartoon.
Anyway, nope, not going to walk down that one.
Got him.
So, introduced to the world's saddest monk. Do you know why he's sad?
Because he's a Catholic priest.
No, because he wanted a smiley face on his hand, and they gave him some weird marks.
Oh, I thought it was because he had clan ad face.
So do you know what made this guy sad outside of his silly tattoo? The fact that to talk to him, the two other guys just walk slowly around him in a circle, completely opposite of each other.
It's so
That would
overdone. It's so
literally
unnecessary.
annoy me to no end.
It's so unnecessary, and it's so. It's someone decided like we're going to show off our budget here. We can do this. We can have two people moving and talking at the same time. It's like I love that you have the budget, but my God, this didn't have to be this way.
In real life, that would be so annoying.
Oh, absolutely. This could have been an email.
And it goes on for like 6 minutes. And
I know.
It really is like
This is to set up the explanation, though, of whether it's the Holy Grail or it's this thing that happens every 60 years and, turns into a giant dragon that grants your one wish.
Yeah. But it's even worse because like they're explaining it for the audience, but like they are reminding this dude who pretty much already knows it, but they're telling him again, and it's just like, okay, so even you know.
No, he doesn't know all of it. He knew like the basics when they were filling in some of the additional details. But yeah, so this priest has a red mark on his hand, which means he's been selected by the Grail to take part in this event.
Not that Grail.
Not
the actual quote unquote Holy Grail, quote unquote.
Well, that thing was moving around. There's other questions I got.
No, they specifically say this ain't the Jesus Christ Holy Grail. This is something else entirely. We just call it the Holy Grail. Why? I don't know. Brand recognition.
Everybody wants it, and it's super special.
I mean, so yeah. It's not the Jesus Christ Grail. It's like the Meyer brand version.
Oh, Bob, this is so far away. No, this is so far away from the Holy Grail. I can't even right now.
Oh, it's like the used discount Grail.
So the church hates the mages.
But they're the ones who are the judges, aren't they? Or
yeah, because they don't trust the mages to like be honorable about anything. So they always send someone to kind of witness everything.
Like this guy's dad. But fortunately, nepotism is okay.
It's the church, of course it is.
Like they in universe, they do everything they can to not call this the Catholic Church, but all the iconography. This is absolutely the Catholic Church.
They're in Italy, of course it's the Catholic Church.
Just once I'd like them to be like, and here's the Episcopalian Church. Ah, yes, them.
I will say this though. A analog for the Catholic Church trying to get in the way of some kind of paganistic belief and have say over it. I'm like, boy, is this on brand.
But we have this short meeting where it's the dad and the other guy talking about how he's been picked and he needs to bring the Grail back because they should be the ones in control of the wish. Which, just to throw it out now, in the future, we find out that's pretty much everyone's thought process for the most part. Barring a few, is that we need to be the ones to control it because you can't trust anyone else. And so he leaves long enough for Dad to be like, well, he needs to do this to help him forget the death of his wife because, sure.
Yes, she died under quote-unquote mysterious circumstances.
As this is episode 1, I don't have that empathy for him at this time.
Oh, you're not supposed to. I'm going to let you know. No, you don't. You're not supposed to have empathy for him. This is not a character you were supposed to bond with, Bob.
Everyone's terrible. It's fine.
That is absolutely true.
This is a tragedy.
Actually, no. One of my favorite characters we're about to meet, arguably.
Okay, yeah, I know. I know exactly who you're talking to.
We move on to our next scene to introduce our next main character because right now we're running only 2, so we need to add another 7. Is Uncle Karya.
Yes, now we are 1 year ago from the event in Fuyuki City, Japan, which is where the Battle Royale takes place.
Now, I feel real bad for Uncle Karya because if I had a niece like that, I would make sure just to give them stuff that they don't like. Oh, here you go, child. Broken glass. Enjoy. And I wouldn't feel bad at all.
Bob, he can't do that. She has plot armor. She's one of the protagonists of the actual source material.
She is one of the only characters I knew on site because she came up a lot during Google searches for finding references for one of my characters.
Really?
Because my character also has pale skin and black hair and red eyes.
She matters.
She matters so much. She is the,
Uh-huh.
when you say all your favorites are here, she is one of the ones that people look at the show and go like, her, she's the one I know. I like her. We get to date her. Whoops.
Does she actually become good? Because right now, I just want to boot her to the other side of the continent.
Have we introduced Bob to Tsundere? I'm sure we have by now, yes?
Cinderella?
I think we've done that vocab word before. We could probably do it again.
Yeah, we might need a quick refresher, but short version, Bob, she becomes a tsundere, and she's
Once
one
she
of
loses
the
her
three major romanceable options in the source material.
Oh. Okay.
So, someone stop me. Tsundere, it's, Bob, the simplest way to put it, the trope of, I like you, but I can't like you, so I'm going to be a complete ass about it.
Hey, do we know what age she is here?
I think in
Old
the
enough
story-
to know better and still too young to
I
care.
want to say she's like 6 or 7 because they're in high school in their last year of high school in the actual source material.
Okay.
And they're in high school?
In the core series, not this.
10 years
And
from
she
now.
had 2 kids?
What? No, not the mother, the daughter, Rin.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Were you asking about the mother?
If there was a mother on screen, I didn't know. No, because I'm playing everybody's favorite game. How old is this main character? Just knowing
I
that
thought about looking it up.
in the original game, she is a romanceable, and there are sex scenes with this character. But if she's 7 here, then 10 years later, she's not 18 yet.
I know, and believe me, let me get this out of the way now before I even end thoughts. The biggest problem I have about liking Fate Zero is the fact that, oh yeah, everything that this is inspired by derived from an Eroge game. Like, oh, well, doesn't everything now just feel a lot cheaper all of a sudden?
I don't even think that's so. I actually, and we can get into more of this later, but I was okay to spoil a little bit of my feelings on this show. Much like with Steins Gate, I kind of went into a bit of a Wikipedia hole to like read up on like the series and reception and stuff like that. And honestly, like even though the original was like an eroge, it. Somebody was saying that like none of the sex scenes occur until like 20 hours into each of the 3 heroine storylines. So it's like
I have no idea.
and so the original came out in 2004. The version that came out a few years after that, which is what made it popular because it came out on like PlayStation and PC and like a ton of other platforms, they actually removed all of the sexual content from it. So when this got popular, it was actually not as an erotic game. So like there's an argument to be made that like actually like even though that is like the original source of it, there is enough meat to the game, even literally stripping that content out to still make it like a worthwhile journey. I think there is, I think, again, much like Science Gate, there is enough coming from a lineage of like the way visual novels are written that is sort of, there's enough of that in the heritage to this series that you can not help but feel it.
I would say regarding Fate Stay Night, I can absolutely agree with you on that because I have an ex that I introduced this, Fate Stay Night Unlimited Bladeworks to. And first thing she did, I didn't realize it was a visual novel at the time. I just knew it was based off a game. And she said, like, was this based off a visual novel? It's like, well, I know it's a game. Google. Oh, yeah, I guess so. So yeah, no, you're right. I haven't really
Incredible.
played a lot of I haven't played a lot of visual novels. She did. So I guess you're right. I'm not going to argue against that. For Fate Zero, I don't know because again, I don't know enough. I don't see it. I would say I see it more in Bladeworks and the original Fate Stay Night. But I mean, if you see it here, kudos. You see it here. I don't because I'm kind of ignorant to that.
I think it just has to do with like, you know, because this is, you know, it is a prequel, which means that it is in conversation with a different work, and there is sort of an implied, hey, there are a number of characters here that you already have a context for, and so it's playing off of the context around those characters from the original work. And because that original work is, you know, an adaptation of a visual novel, that means the context and expectations is playing with are still derived from that. But at this point it is like, you know, third degree derivative, so it is weaker and weaker. I actually think more, and especially in this opening scene, which we are not really past yet, just the way that they take so much time. Like the reason that they're walking in a circle is so that they have something to animate, because it really is just like an
Exposition dump.
an info dump conversation. And when you remember that this prequel was based off of a light novel, you know, prose, it's just like, oh yeah, that is exactly the kind of stuff that really works well in that medium. But as soon as you say, hey, we need to make this a, you know, visual animated motion media, it's just like, okay, how are we like it, when we get to like fight scenes in later episodes, it's just like, okay, you really made it, you know, worth its salt here. But for moments like this, it's just like, everybody's just been talking so far. And like I also wonder, like, this is me with a lot of like high fantasy stuff, but it's just like you are taking yourself so seriously, but you're also just standing in a room saying stuff at each other. And like, I think certain lines are delivered better when like the visual is in your mind, because like a line can have a lot of weight, and then like if they're just standing in a room sort of yelling at each other, you go, oh, actually this is kind of maybe not as dramatic as it was in the original form.
You
It's
know,
so funny to me how you slide off so hard on anything that involves like machinations and like political intrigue and anything that's like takes itself too seriously.
You're absolutely
I
right. Like I know that it's absolutely me. It's funny watching you know, when Loading Ready Run did from Rewatch with Love, and they were going through all of the Bond movies. Like I've even noticed that for myself. Like a Bond movie is a great way to look at it, because there are some which are like very clearly based on books, and there is a lot of machinations going on, but it is like when you are sort of like assembling the notions and the concepts, and you are building like the mental map of all of that, that is very complex and very interesting, and that works so well. But then when you try to make it a movie, it's just like, it's like, oh, okay, what do we show here? It's a lot of meetings, it's a lot of briefings, it's a lot of conversations, and it's not like, doesn't always have visual interest. And then you get to a movie, I like the Bond movies that I think work best are the ones where it's just like, hi, I am Goldfinger. Here is the machine that I will use to steal that pile of gold right there. And you have three very obvious visual things to point at. And it's just like, I can't say anything as to, you know, how they are as books, but it's just like, yes, that is, you have a visual in this one. It's really like, you know, it's really just a matter of like certain medium work better to tell certain stories and to convey certain styles of information. I'm not even saying this as like a bad thing. I'm just like oh yeah, it's there are certain ways that serve this best.
I think that would also be subjective to the individual.
Oh, of course, because the other side of this to me is how opposite of that you are, Chuck, to machinations and grimdark and
I was going
all
to say
that
that, I'm
stuff.
like, and I thank you for pointing that out, Joe, because I felt like maybe it's just a me thing. Maybe I'm the only one that enjoys like political thrillers and things. Like, okay, I guess it's just me. I appreciate you pointing that out, because I'm like, oh, I feel bad. I'm just gonna keep
No, like
dooming people to watching these.
I enjoy them. I definitely enjoy ones that like don't take themselves too seriously. Like this
Sure.
one, to jump to the end a little bit, like intrigues me enough that I'd probably check out more of it. Um But yeah, it's definitely personal tastes.
Yeah. And I was going to say, to your point as well, Nick, as Joe pointed out, yeah, I like those. Honestly, part of the reason I fell out of love with anime back in '04, maybe '05, was the fact that outside of a few that found a good balance between seriousness and levity, or were just good, mostly mecha, I'll be honest, action, but dramas. Um, this is one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons I can't stand Naruto, Bleach. I'm sure I would run into this problem with One Piece, even though I hear only good things about it. It's like I would like it to take itself a little seriously. I don't mind if it has a joke here and there, but it's like, man, I'm just, if I want to watch jokes all the time, I can watch something else. But yeah, so that's why it grabbed my attention, for all the reasons you're pointing out, Nick and Joe. It absolutely scratched that in. It's like, yes, make me kind of work for this, in the sense of like following the threads. I live for it. So yeah, but and I'm sorry if when for those that this bounces off of, that you probably didn't enjoy this as much as I did.
And I'm not even saying it's bad. It's just like to me,
Oh no, not at all.
like as somebody who is like a very visual medium creator, this is just a way that I like break things down. And I'm just like I'm not even saying like, hey, I think this is like bad machinations that they're setting up. I'm just like, hey, I bet this is a rad ass book where it's just like, oh, there's the strength here is not something that comes across individual. It is in the machinations, the relationships, the conceptual, and it's just like that always stands out to me. But and like I'm also thinking it might just be sort of an issue because this first episode is so set up heavy. Like we have to introduce like it is a double length episode that is just about who is this person, what is their relationship, and who knows what about the others. Like as soon as
It's
we get
a bunch of names and nouns being thrown at you.
So many proper nouns. But when we get to the other episodes, they do a much better job of like combining, actions and scene changes and interactions in a way that I think is way more, balanced and really works both sides of it really well. But again, for this first episode double long, to go so heavy on, this all this good stuff that just doesn't necessarily utilize visual medium to its extent, to me that stood out and definitely made it feel not even draining, just boy, this this episode could have been an email. It's a good important email, but
I will say this too. After you've described how this plays out for like visual novels, and I know this isn't the first conversation because definitely in Steins Gate, this has made me more and more curious. Like maybe I just need to go play some visual novels. Maybe that's what I'm looking for in a video game. I don't know.
There are definitely some visual novels that I think would really resonate well with you, especially if you want to like read/watch/play something where like, do you want like 120 hours of having a huge machination plan doled out to you? Because I feel like you do.
I mean, Bob will attest. I have replayed the entire Mass Effect trilogy over and over again. So maybe, yeah.
Okay, I'll look some stuff up for you. There's some good free ones to start with. We'll start there.
But to put us on rails, I know Bob also started to say something, so let me throw him back on there.
It's more that I can see kind of where both of you are coming from. Myself, I do feel like, we're to sum up the rest of the episode, we meet everyone.
Yeah, essentially you want the super Cliff Notes version of this? I got you covered.
No, we meet crazy old guy who is very clearly
we meet
bad
Karya's
guy.
father.
Yeah, who suffers from I'm bad guy face. Who has gotten the other girl, Sakura, and put her in the worm pit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot to throw some triggers. Yeah, I forgot to throw triggers because I was kind of in a fugue state when I sent you the episodes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Hey,
Uh,
about
But-
that.
Yes, trigger warning, man. I'm sorry.
Like legit though, it was not so much that like it upset me, but it was definitely one of those situations about like, okay, show, are you just going for shock value here? Like I almost tapped out because I was just like
it was a little unnecessary.
it was
But,
so
however,
unnecessary.
Uncle Karyu is like, don't worry, I'll take her place. Just pick me, I'll bring the Grail home. And he's like, it doesn't matter because I'm the bad. I mean, because she's already been in there.
I almost feel it's kind of necessary just to show you how evil it is, because it's easy to say. Don't get me wrong. This scene, first time watching, yeah, no, put it on a hard pause and walked away for a minute.
I think it's
I
the
f-
fact that he specifically has the line about her being violated by the
Yes.
worms that like was like, okay, you didn't need that.
Well, I mean,
And I
she's very obviously like naked in this swirling mass of bugs with a look on her face that is just like, if she is not unconscious, she is just like mentally broken at this
She's
point.
catatonic.
Like,
As I wrote in
Mhm.
my notes, she's been fear factored into traumatic catatonia.
yeah,
that
like
is also relevant because, Bob, welcome to the third romanceable option in the source material.
That's
yeah.
horrible.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, her storyline is the absolute worst timeline.
But also, this is the younger sister, so 10 years later, she's younger than the one who is not 18 yet.
Like I
We're
said, the
joking.
absolute
We've had
worst.
discussions about legal ages in Japan before. We don't need to cross that bridge again.
Yeah, it's either way though. It's just the worst timeline. Hers and everything she suffers through. This character genuinely has it the worst.
I don't disagree. Yeah. Anyway, so we move on from Uncle and we meet up with, and I'm going to break someone's heart with this.
Do it.
My least favorite character,
Which one?
Waver.
The teacher, the boy. Oh, okay. Snape.
I really thought you might enjoy Waver by the end of this. Like not this, but
he
the
just-
series.
He just come. I only watched these 3 episodes,
True.
and even though the look ahead, the third that we watched definitely, actually more the second one had more of him in it, but I don't know, the third one did too. I feel like he's probably almost one of the main protagonists.
Surprisingly, he becomes one. Yeah.
And he's just okay.
He's a
So
little shit.
yes, spoil some things. I did watch Pokemon and Digimon and all that, and in my opinion, he is that protagonist kid who thinks he knows everything and comes to realize he knows nothing. But at no point do I see him realize that he knows nothing.
I mean, don't we all start off that way?
I do appreciate that he introduced us to the different types, fire, grass, water, and so forth.
Yeah, he gives us he does his research and learns about the girl war, and so gives us a little more specific exposition about the fight itself.
And there's what I actually wrote it down: Rider, Archer, Assassin, Caster, Saber, Berserker, and Lancer.
Literally
Yeah.
just character classes. Like, this is like, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, so we've gone from gacha game into a Disgaea game. Okay.
Yeah, no, that fucking the art that I say fucking a lot this episode, sorry. The art that goes by as he's like talking about him, it looks like Final Fantasy Tactics art. I forget the name of that
Yes, it
artist.
does.
So it's just, yeah,
That was
straight up
bothering.
meh.
Yeah,
This
no,
is-
I'm not saying it's highbrow.
But I
Yeah, it's like-
appreciate the fact that this is the best form of relaying information to my brain. Just, this is what it is. Not
Sure.
me trying to figure out reading through those
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, no.
7 magic people summon 7 spirits, one of each of these, and then they fight.
And
How many
we
went
are
to St.
using
Ives?
we are using the term spirits liberally here because they pull from characters of mythology. I'm not going to get into the nonsense that is their explanation and justification at how mythological people are actually real in that universe. But we're just going to leave it at that. We're going to cut out the spirits nonsense. We're just going to cut it at that. That's why I called it.
I assumed like it was kind of how deities work in some fantasy contexts, where it's like the cultural zeitgeist is subconscious, the belief in them creates an entity, spirit,
That was
abstract
my original
concept.
That was my original read, and I genuinely believe that's probably where they started with this idea. But unfortunately, with the expansion of this whole franchise, they have now said, no, these actually existed.
Meh.
Yeah, I know. It gets worse when they did that.
But we cut from waiver scene of explanation to us actually meeting someone who can summon one of these creatures. Because the dude brings in the assassin? Was just straight up a ninja.
Yeah, Kirei's got
no,
the assassin with him.
Because
An
I know
assassin with him.
Yeah, he's not a ninja, Bob. Again, these are based off of, some are based off real people, some are mythologies. This guy's actually from the
Ninja guy, I know, I've seen him. He jumps off the wall and gets to a higher ledge and can climb up.
It's Ryo Hayabusa. We all know him and love him.
Sure.
But they have a short meeting, kind of do more long, drawn-out explanation instead of the short waiver explanation, where all mages, which kind of explained through Waiver's teacher, is it's familial lines. But he explains more that it's just one person in a familial line. So pretty much all mages are people who live in states where you can marry your cousin.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
You can marry into other. Sorry,
but
go ahead.
There are family bloodlines that, like the oldest families have the strongest mages, basically. And Waver's whole thing is like, but what if someone just is really good at learning the magic and is strong because they are good at the application rather than the inherentness? And the teacher's like, haha, that's stupid because he's an elitist classist schmuck, as all mages are.
Yeah, it's almost like they're setting up a path for his narrative.
And Malfoy comes along and says, but my father owns several mages. And thus it continues.
Yeah. I do like that he steals his professor's relic to summon his servant.
Are we cutting ahead to the end?
Oh, okay.
That's just, I actually just have short blurbs here.
Okay.
Uncle Worm Guy lives and tries to be a good uncle to a girl who doesn't respond to him. Wafer is like, hey, grandparents, you see nothing, and is super weird. I don't really feel like I got a good explanation as to why with the episodes we watched.
He hypnotized him. He said it.
I got that.
Actually, his grandparents.
But why?
Free place to stay.
Yeah, he left the
and
mage
he's a
college.
likable character?
He becomes one.
Of course he does.
Dubious.
He's probably the only one.
As soon as he read about the Grail War, and then his immediate reaction was like, oh, I'm a perfect candidate for this. I was like, no, you're a fucking idiot. You're gonna die immediately.
I mean, like, there's something inherent to that, right? Like, the whole point of the Grail War is that, like, oh yes, if you can defeat this bloody battle, you can obtain this wish. And it's one of those where it's just like, if you are willing to, like, fight in a battle royale in order to achieve a wish, doesn't that mean you're inherently, like, not deserving of it or something?
I will put it out there, and I know it's not entirely clear here, but even from like episode 2 going forward, he starts to really realize how slowly, admittedly, how out of his depth he really is, and that he doesn't know what he really got himself into. But it's also that stubbornness of I'm in too deep, and writer, yeah, his is literally the coming of age kind of story through the worst of examples, and honestly, it's thanks to writer that he makes it out alive.
I have a question.
Yes.
The Grail War, when they're talking about it, they're always like, oh, fight to the death, battle royale.
Mm-hmm.
Do the masters have to die, or is it the servants that die?
Okay.
to be eliminated.
On paper, only the servants have to die, including
Okay,
the
so it's
victorious
supposed to
one.
be. Okay, so it's supposed to be a battle royale between the summons.
Yes.
Okay.
However, because the masters can take up, like if a servant loses its master, something happens to the
Yeah.
master,
No, like
they can
I
partner
figured
up with
that
someone
part.
else. Yeah. So
It
it's
was
kill the master.
unclear. It was unclear about like what the rules were in that regard, like what was supposed to be the setup.
Would you believe in the second and third episode they also explain some of that?
Sure.
More explanation. Oh, good.
Yeah,
more
yeah,
questions.
No, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. When they're talking about the Holy Grail Wars, just while we're just asking the questions, man.
Yeah.
They say that the last 3 Holy Grail Wars have been inconclusive.
That was my other question, because it seems
How does
to
it
me
end?
like if somebody won and got the Grail, then that would be the end. But
Yeah,
this is
and
the
someone has to win.
4th, so nobody's won yet. Okay.
Well, yeah, even in quote unquote this one, there's technically a victor. They show you why this would
There's
still go
no
on.
resolution. Okay.
There's a good solid explanation. You know, maybe some mental instabilities that explain why certain things continue. Or mental instabilities deriving from why it still continues. So yeah, they're essentially, we've been trying, and we may have won on technicalities, but certain things have happened, or people just die. So
It's
that's simple.
just very funny, this idea of like, yes, here's this very strict rules about how this tournament is organized. Oops, we keep having no contest, no winners. It's just like, that's very funny to me, which is like, so we've had other shows where like I've said like, hey, you're setting up rules and then you're like clearly suggesting that you're not following them, and like that's been like something that set me out. Like I want to say like Alchemy, Full Metal Alchemist has been a show where that like really itched me wrong. Here it's hilarious, but I think that's also because
here it's because the mages are so egotistical and they're like, I'm gonna do anything I can to win, so that involves getting around the rules.
Yeah, I am so waiting for everyone in this to get killed. Like, so all right, spoilers for regular Fate, I guess, for Stay Night, but my understanding is like either at the end of this Grail War or by the time the next one happens, the Grail itself gets corrupted, so it also becomes a monkey's paw wish, and I'm just like, yes, even the winners get comeuppance in the end. I live for this.
So spoiler, it's because of the events of this narrative that happens.
Okay, that's
because no, hear
I
me out.
like
Hear me
that.
out.
I guess I like that.
Yeah, because the superficial narrative here of like how this resolves was told in the source material. I found that much out. Cause like, did they just like retcon this into being? Because it's a good retcon, but no, it was there. Just like all of the players have been fleshed out. Like you really only knew 3 or 4 characters that appear here also appear in the source material. That's Kiritsugu, the priest, Gilgamesh, and the daughter, the homunculus daughter. So, I mean, you could also say Saber because she is the through-line narrative or through-line character. But yeah, those that are like involved with this, and okay, a few more characters. But anyway, the point of the matter is those are like the major important ones. The major players are Kirei, which is the priest, Gilgamesh, which is archer, all in gold, and Kiritsugu, mage killer extraordinaire.
That's Gilgamesh?
Yeah, by the way, spoiler, that's Gilgamesh.
Wait, which one's Gilgamesh?
Golden boy. Literal actual
okay.
I love gold.
Yeah, that's Gilgamesh. Okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Listen, do you have enough swords, King of Heroes? That's the only thing I know about Fate before watching this.
Yeah. I love the meme.
So the only other thing that happened... Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I was going to just make a little stupid chide. He's the king of kings, not king of heroes.
I'll put that in the notes.
I thought that was Jesus.
Would you believe he's a servant?
I was just about to ask, hey, is Jesus in this at all?
Not in this, but like in some of the, as I understand it, some of the expanded bullshit material, yes, Jesus shows up at some point.
Well, that's the thing. When you get into Fate Grand Order, which is the gotcha game, you need to have more pulls. You want to pull freaking...
Yeah, you're just gonna keep pulling characters from shit.
Yeah, we're going to get into Cute Girl Thomas Edison as a servant. Listen.
I mean, Leonardo da Vinci, from what I've been told.
But only as a cute girl. Anyway, we meet 3 other servants at the end of this episode. As I list them, shoulder pad person, sword lady, and fun cape guy. And to bring them
Okay.
out, you have to say the message from Utena, I guess.
There was also the Black Knight. Not the literal actual Black Knight, but a knight in black.
Artorias of the Abyss.
Bless you.
Kind of? Joe, you're so much closer than I wonder if you realize. I don't know what you know.
I know everything.
Oh, okay, then yeah, you're really close, but not quite. It was a secret and a spoiler.
Oh,
Oh,
my
Leonardo
goodness.
da Vinci's cute.
I was only joking.
I wasn't.
Yeah, no, anime girl versions of fill in the blank is a very popular concept.
And boy, does this franchise love to just use and abuse it.
Yeah.
Would you believe that Artoria was actually supposed to be actually Arthur originally when this was conceived of?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, so that's the end of episode 1, while you continue to look.
Yeah,
Yeah, at the end of the episode, like, you get the saber reveal for all of the nerds who are coming from Fate Stay Night.
Or are you a master who can handle me or something like that?
Yeah.
are you worthy of being my master? But yes.
Which-
It's a thing that they all say.
Okay, but also this idea that we have this legendary, literally Arthur of legend, but a cute girl now, and also the very first thing they say when they appear on screen for being theoretically a main character is like, are you worthy of being my master? So we're immediately into like some master slave BDSM kind
Yeah.
of weird stuff like this. Like, okay,
Let me tell you.
I
Let
will.
me give you this if it helps you or
No,
help your
no,
cause.
asterisk, not that BDSM is weird. We just mean,
Yeah.
like, it's
No,
like a coloring to it with the wording.
Yeah, when again, watching this the first time, like, okay, that's cool. It's like, are you worthy of working with me? You know, I will follow your commands if you are worthy of me. Cool. Find out this is an eroge. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it
Not
just
what
hits
really
a little
meant.
different.
Gotcha.
Well, because like that's the thing, right? Like, if like you want to tell me that this is very much a show that is going to deal very widely with ideas of like power dynamics and relationships and stuff like that, like this absolutely makes sense. But it's like your first impressions matter, and when you immediately go with like, all right, I'm here now, you want to be my master, Nyan? And I'm just like,
Well, that
you're
also
doing
means
yourself
that-
a disservice. You're not gonna get the audience you want. You're
Now,
you're
again,
posting
though,
cringe.
think about you going in with what you know or what you know with those kind of games and those kind of setups versus someone who doesn't know at all. It kind of works under the going in ignorant. It doesn't have that read necessarily if you're not looking for it. It can read as again, under the veil of, yeah, I went in totally blind, like, okay, this is cool. Are you worthy of having me work for you, having me be the one that does the fighting, does the killing? Is this a partnership that works? Like, cool, it works that way. Again, in ignorance, but if you have knowledge of the source material or that kind of material, yeah, it absolutely does, and I would agree with that.
Anyway.
Episode-
Work on both ends.
Alright, so that was episode 1. Which was
think
kind
we
of
hit all
it was a
levels.
double length episode, so it was
Mhm.
kind of 2 episodes. And now we go to episode 9, Master and Servant.
I call this episode an episode in 2 parts, essentially. Really, the first part is all about Lancer, and the second part is all about Waver and his relationship to his servant.
Okay,
opens up with. Oh, go ahead.
who is his servant? Like, they only call him Ryder, but like this is another known entity, right? They
This
all
is
are.
Yerbud Oa Dubin. I know I'm saying this wrong. Irish, I believe. I've actually got a page for it because I knew that was going to come up.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Irish pronunciation, Diarmid. We're just going to call him Diarmid, or also known as Diarmid of the Love Spot. The Love Spot is that little mole. It's also kind of a curse thing. You can kind of see why now that you know that.
Irish.
Yeah, he's Irish from the Fenian cycle, which doesn't mean much to me right now. Traditionally thought to be set in the 2nd or 4th century. He is the son of Don. 2 ends, but Don, and so on and so forth. He was a spearman, a hyper short version to kind of relate it to events you've seen. He fought for a king. King's bride fell in love with him because of the stupid bowl. And for whatever reason, he decided to indulge. And then
died from it.
Yeah, and then he got, he was hunted down. Then he fell for the oldest trick in the book. No, we're cool now. And then he got a death. Because kind of like Arthur, he's dumb. And he believes that everyone adheres to, or everyone should adhere to, the honor chivalry thing because they do. So it's his tragic flaw. But yeah, that's who he is.
Okay. Yeah, the first half of the story is, essentially we start off with one of America's favorite things. It was only a dream. We kind of see Lancer's backstory of very Arthurian and almost Shakespearean. Oh, I love her, but her dad says I can't. Oh, what shall I do? We'll secretly run off together. Stuff happens. And, I don't even remember the guy's name. Lancer's master wakes up out of the
El
dream.
Malloy.
I'm sorry, what?
El Malloy.
El Malloy?
Kenneth.
Oh,
One of those.
Kenny El Malloy. Him, and apparently he brought a girl with him.
His
Because
fiance.
who doesn't?
Yeah,
Aw.
that's his
He needs to pick better. She's a very
I feel
interesting
like it's
person.
a perfect fit for him because he's a
Yeah.
tool.
As he apparently in the previous episode used up all of his magic abilities, and his fiance just kind of spells it out for him. Hey,
Would you like me to clarify?
No, you don't really need to.
Okay, it was one of the episodes I really wanted to show you because it's kind of cool.
He used all his magic juice
Yep.
trying to get away and burnt it
Oh,
now
all.
he can't lift a finger, but she sure can. In fact, she's going to remove his finger just to get to the tattoo on his hand. Apparently, they can be passed from one person to another.
She's like, "Hey, you can't move. Let me go command Lancer in the
No,
fight."
don't do that.
Okay.
Lancer is such a good person. He won't listen.
But
don't worry. I can cut off your arm if you don't give it to me.
Yeah, but she wants to fuck him.
She's very thirsty because the power of the mole is real.
She's so extreme.
It's a thirst mole.
how is
so sorry.
she gonna get the tattoo? It's given out by the Grail. The idea that you have any
The
agency in
user-
trading them
The
is
master can choose to pass it on and be like, "You fight in my stead."
It's a rule. It's in the rules.
give it
So
to
it's
a
magic for
servant,
beasts?
and then servants can summon servants. It's like when dogs pet other
That can
dogs.
happen.
Dogs can't pet dogs in this world.
Oh, now
Huff.
my head is hurting. We got a short second of looking at people getting healed through the power of magic, and some servants and some masters together explaining how they need to go and fight Lancer, but Saber disagrees. And then we see that the fiance now has the marks and is trying to convince Lancer to listen to her, because Lancer's like, no, I just listened to one person and it's the dude. And she's like, pretty, please, if you want him to live, well, it'll take a miracle for him to live.
What like the Grail does.
Apparently Lancer's okay with that.
Well, yeah, Lancer has nobility for whatever reason.
Because he wasn't loyal in life, and now he's promised himself that he's going to be loyal in this afterlife.
Yeah. He believes something now wholeheartedly.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a fatal character.
Yeah, he's vaguely likable. It's just he's also kind of dumb.
Would you believe that's every Lancer in this series, in this franchise?
I believe it's a lot, like 2/3 of the servants.
Mm,
That math doesn't even work out.
with the nobility part, no, but yeah, they've all got some kind of tragic flaw.
So we switch over to Ryder and Waver because they be chilling now.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of ship these two.
Really?
I knew Joe would love Ryder and Waver.
Oh, I don't love them. I
Okay,
just
you would-
ship them.
Yeah, okay. You would have feelings about them in some fashion, I guess. I can see this. I'm calling the shot from here.
I have
But-
types, okay? I can't help it.
But they argue like old people.
Yep.
Waver wants Ryder to disappear, and Ryder's like, no.
Look at my pants.
Also, I don't think they ever said who Ryder is.
They just kind of pass it off as he's a friend from
no,
also
no.
abroad.
No. I mean, like
Oh.
what fiction or what historical
Hold
spirit
on,
he
wait,
is.
I got this. This is probably the closest I can come to doing an actual voice impersonation. Hold on. He is Iskander, King of Conquerors.
Oh, he's Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
He's kind of a himbo, and I love him.
Honestly, of all the servants, he's my favorite. I'm just gonna say it now.
He should be.
Of all the characters, I think he's my favorite, but
He should.
Big Boy, who's like the only one who's not an edgelord in this show, I kind of feel like it's cheating that I like him. Like, if, like, okay, another comparison to Steins Gate. If you told me he was the primary love interest of the original visual novel, I would believe you, because, yeah, I'm falling for that trap.
Would you believe he's not in the original visual novel? He dies here. Spoiler.
Well, death isn't real. They've been summoned.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he dies, quote unquote. But yeah, no,
Oh.
he is demonstrably just like the best character.
He is lots of fun. He's a good servant.
Yeah,
Empress is a good
so
servant too, but
Waver's there doing alchemy, being smart.
I love
that's
that
debatable.
Ryder's so supportive. I mean, he's using an intelligence-based strat to figure out where Castor is. Castor has a bounty on his head, and so does his master.
I don't know anything about Castor.
You really don't want to, because this episode kind of gives you enough.
We
Yeah,
find out
no.
later on, but right now it's like,
No. I will be honest. There's a reason I didn't show you episode 2, because if you want the existential and kind of genuinely horrific, it's there. He is a monster. Capital M, kind of like Zoken, just a different way about it.
you got into it a little bit, but especially as a servant, it's a little weird. Once again, that's jumping ahead.
Yeah.
We're still here. Ryder and Waver follow their mystical, alchemical ways, and happen across this, nice damp area, and just walk in because why not? Ryder's like, "Hey, don't look around." Waver's like, "I do what I want." Looks around, and everything is red.
Big hypocrite. Those are children.
And yeah, it's super gross, super creepy, and they get super attacked by the Ninja Turtles. Really weird. Oh no, cameo. Anyway, so apparently assassins are hanging out here.
Yeah, which is weird because Assassin was already killed.
Yeah, in episode 2. So, okay. They don't explain it well.
They don't need
Never.
to. There's more assassins. It's fine.
Well, no. It's all one assassin. It's based off a character. Don't ask me to look up his name. I don't remember him. All I remember is that in the kind of knowledge about this, it was a name that was used by multiple people. So by getting this assassin, you get everyone that has ever used that name.
Oh, that's a cool interpretation.
Yeah, it was like it's really cool when you hear it, but it's like they have these things that are called noble phantasms. It's their super
Yeah, I was
mega
going to ask
ability.
about that later.
This is a static noble phantasm. This is always on. Bob, to put it in simpler terms, this is a planeswalker with a static ability that reads, yo, you get a copy of this guy for, any time you've taken a breath.
So there's really no way for him to die.
No, Ryder sees to that later.
Oh, I guess,
It's
that's
cool
part
when
of the
I
Holy
watch
Grail
it.
games anyway.
Yeah.
Oh.
Some of the
And
superpowers of this are stupid awesome.
they end up getting out by tactfully retreating.
Yeah. They kill 2 of the 4. The other 2 just get out of Dodge. And then they burn the house down.
Including a shoe.
Oh, you know what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, that poor little kid.
Yeah, they're at the same time cremating the bodies.
Isn't that happy?
I mean, it's an unfortunate necessity.
And thus ends episode 9. I will say it was nice to meet Ryder.
I could have easily stacked this with like great writer moments. I so desperately wanted to.
Oh, this isn't the last we see him.
Oh no, but there's so many good writer moments that have just been left out of this because I wanted to kind of give a smattering of this show, just kind of like smear a couple colors that give you the general idea of it. In the grossest of simple terms. But yeah, writer's great. Waver and Writer together are great. Writer makes Waver better through time.
It's just he doesn't listen. Yes, he can do his alchemistry, but he's just there's
Again,
something about him that rubs me wrong.
You want the character with development, the most development, it's going to end up being Waver. And that's probably one of the things that made me watch the show all the way through. There's a couple things, but that's one of them. Like, I really didn't think I'd like Waver. I'm like, okay, this kid's dead in 5 seconds. Because he's a kid. He doesn't know what he's getting into. I don't care what magic he knows. I don't see no pyramid hanging from around his neck. He doesn't have a friend named Kaiba. So he's dead. And he didn't die. And as time went on, he became a better and likable character, which I desperately wanted to show as well. Couldn't. But yeah, Writer's best. Writer's best boy.
Episode 14 is Bloody Battle on the Mion River. For me, this episode I was watching it in Japanese, but this episode wasn't played in English, and then I wasn't able to get the Japanese for any of the episodes. So I don't know what happened there. But so that was a fun game for me of trying to figure out who everyone was by their voices, because it was now everyone had different voices.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oof,
I stuck to dub the entire time.
Yeah.
Also, damn, there's a lot of voice actors in this that I know in English.
Mm-hmm.
The scene opens up with something that only makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Fighter jets. Like, if they see something big and bad, which later on they kind of explain it a little bit to a question of mine as to how they can see this monster. Because aren't their eyes supposed to be blinded?
To a degree. Short version, there's a degree of effort and desire to keep it, but also the closer you are to the thing, the more likely you are to see the thing.
Which kind of plays a little bit into this episode, but it's just a really short part.
I love the dialogue that this began with, and it's absolutely the reason I chose this out of a couple episodes.
It's honestly probably the most realistic response I would see.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, big bad, we shoot. But
and
then we also get
the way that, like, when just like modern stuff, the rest of the world suddenly is interacting with all of this mage bullshit going on, and it's just like, oh yeah, no, we should just fire missiles at it, and like,
reality collided with your bullshit war.
As soon as, the pilot says, I'm going in for a closer look, I'm like, oh, no, you dead. You never go in for a closer look. That's how you die.
Yeah, Cthulhu hungry. I'm sorry. Legally distinct, not Cthulhu. Cthulhu got hungry.
I thought he was just like a big kraken until I learned that there was a man inside.
Yeah. It's a flesh Gundam.
Ugh.
No, we're not up
Anyway.
to that yet.
So we've got, let's see here, Ryder and Blade Girl. Can't think of what her
Paper.
title. Saber, thank you. Fighting it, and they are getting nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're even hoping out for Archer to come along and help them out.
Yeah.
Even though Archer's there and couldn't give two craps.
You want his character surmised? There it is.
Like, I don't like him. I don't like Archer even more than I don't care for Waver.
You really shouldn't.
Like, does his master not have control of him?
So there's
He
a
does.
yeah.
I figured
There's a
out
degree
in
of
this
willingness.
episode. Yeah, I figured out in this episode how the command spell thing works and like the
Mhm.
association with the tattoos. Like they have a specific, what is it, like 4 times they can
3.
like make them do a thing, and each time they do, part of the tattoo goes away. And the rest is just like convincing them to fight with you for the Grail.
Yeah, shorthand is most of the time your servant is just going to kind of go along with you. However, because go and figure, this absolutely played on gacha game strats and everything before the gacha game came out. When you get to those like S tier, or double S tier, triple S tier heroes, i.e. your super rare shiny Pokemon, they have wills of their own, and no matter how many badges you have, they may not just work with you. So the command seals are there. You can try and force it. There's demonstrable documentation in the series. Commanding them to just obey any order you give does not work. But yeah, the stronger they are, the more willful they are. So if they don't want to play nice, they will not.
Like Archer, who just leaves.
Yeah, Archer is just like, I brought popcorn, and I'm all out of popcorn. This show sucks. I want to go. I'm watching Cthulhu, knockoff Godzilla movie, and it's not entertaining. I want to go home.
And at this point, we realize through conversation that the spell or whatever that causes people not to pay attention to the monsters and fighting and servants is kind of weakening.
Yeah, I mean, they're out in public. There's a giant kaiju. There's pink mist everywhere along this river. And so people on the shore are starting to notice, what's that? What's going on over there?
Casters also are, between this and Unlimited Blade Works, what my understanding of casters are, they kind of end up straining the bounds of what keeps things out of the eye of the public. So yeah, when you make a giant kaiju and you just drop it in a river in a populated area, some people are going to inevitably notice.
As it is, we have the introduction, at least for me, I'm sure that they've been around already, of Berserker. Kind of shows up to help out, question mark.
No, Berserker really doesn't
Okay. Was he only partially summoned, or is that just the Berserker effect of being fuzzy?
That is actually part of Berserker's kind of static ability to not be identified. So that's intentional. That's part of the design of the character. It's not like, I'm only half summoned. Berserker was fully summoned because of the nature of who this ends up being. When you find out, like in the second or third to last episode, you learn like, this is why. There is a thing tied to their mythology as to why, and why they hate a certain blue person with an invisible sword. And it really irritates Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh, when they first show Berserker, throws a couple swords at him, and he just grabs those and turns them right back around on him. So he kind of overwrites certain abilities.
But Gilgamesh is also the only one who can get Archer's attention,
Yeah.
which that ends up with kind of like a side fight almost,
Yeah.
which is not bad.
Yeah, alien spaceship dogfight.
And it's here. What is the name of Castor's master?
You know, hold on. Reset.
Ryunosuke.
No, Ryunosuke. Yeah, you were correct. Thank you. It doesn't matter. He's for reasons.
He's a weirdo.
He's
he-
voiced by Vash the Stampede.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's also the
It's
one that's
Johnny
actually.
Young Bosch.
He's also the one that actually started murdering all the children. When the story starts, when you meet Waver in the first
He's a
episode,
serial killer.
yeah, they mentioned serial
yes,
children
but
murders.
even with the way he talks at the end of this,
Oh
you can
yeah,
tell something's a little off about him.
yeah. Literally, the previous episode, he and Castor, after having their base destroyed and everything, they came down to through their very deformed logic, came down to realize, oh no, God wants us to do terrible things because that otherwise God wouldn't have made us. So therefore, what we're doing really is praising God. Shorthand, Gilles de Rais, if you really care, look him up, is Castor, otherwise known as Bluebeard, otherwise known as someone who was near Jeanne d'Arc once upon a time before she was burned to death and was killed under suspect, or I don't remember if it's actual suspect, or confirmation that he may have done terrible things to children. So they're really playing to character here. And it's gross and awful. But yeah, but he still believed in God at the time. So yeah, that's why they're doing this. They essentially think this is all for God, and Castor thinks Saber is Jeanne d'Arc.
And at the same time, Uncle Karya is having a conversation about pretty much the family lineage and how this whole war doesn't make a whole lot of sense anyway.
He
As
right.
far as everything is like children, direct line. And once again, you do pure blood mages.
He's really upset about the fact that Tosaka literally just gave away a whole child of his just to ensure she could also learn magic, quote unquote, from the worst person possible.
Grandpa, obvious bad guy face.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, let me check my notes here. I know we're getting close to the end. So it ends with Berserker fighting Archer. Oh no, it doesn't end that way. It ends with a caster and his master's weird exit. Well, not weird, but the master who, I already forgot the name even though you said it,
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
is injured to the point where he's just going to die.
Well, he's
Because
not
he's
just
bleeding out.
he's not injured. This
Fucking
is
cut shot.
yeah, he was snipered, which I appreciate is an effective means of removing a player from the field in this.
And it's a way to stop a servant even though it doesn't, because Caster's like, look what I'm going to do because you are such a great master, in a weird voice,
Yeah.
and lets the monster live on even though the master is dead.
Castor, earlier episode, has a book. It's a secondary source of mana, so even losing his master doesn't really stop him.
And that's essentially the end of the episode.
In fact, if I remember correctly, it's I'm sure I'm wrong, but I could have sworn they said they implied it's the Necronomicon that he has.
But it was nice to see Ryder again.
Yeah, poor Ryder.
He
Does
tries
not
and
have any
tries. Now, where are the... Oh... Are using my
others.
brain. Yeah, because we
Well,
had Archer, Caster, Saber, Berserker,
and Lancer on the side.
Ryder, Lancer. Who are we missing? Assassin.
Assassin. We know why Assassin's not there. Actually, no, you don't. Assassin by this point is now dead.
Again?
No, like all of the assassins died.
So it's down to 6.
Yes, now we now have a formal 6. Kirei doesn't have a servant, but through conversations in this episode and the previous one, maybe Gilgamesh is making some moves, considering a change in life partner.
I liked the art of this episode. The monster was pretty cool.
I wanted to give you guys something that showed like just kind of what they can do with their budget instead of just making people
Instead of
walk
just
in
having
circles.
a person talk,
Yeah, instead of people walking in circles.
literally.
Yeah, like I said, it was hard for me because I was afraid if I didn't give the exposition episode, something would happen.
But
So I wanted to give,
it makes sense.
yeah. And the other two, it's like, I wanted to show kind of like character part and then actual just what this show really makes its bread and butter on is action sequences because they are gorgeous. The CG monster notwithstanding.
But that's really my thought on this episode is more it was just fight focused.
Yeah.
It's not bad. And Castor and his master weirdos.
Yeah, his master's real obsession with murder
With
and
guts and blood.
well, not
Now
only
he gets to see the
his
blood.
the murder he was looking to satisfy him was literally within him all along.
Yep.
Yeah, he is probably definitely, I won't say probably, definitely my biggest problem with this series in general is him and Castor. They are supposed to be. Zoken really kind of fights them for that top spot. I would say they are equally my other problem.
Token
Yeah.
is that evil put
Old man.
worms in an old man, right?
Yeah.
That Snoke looking ass.
Yeah, he is like everything I think the Emperor in Star Wars was supposed to be in the way of a threat.
The most obvious bad guy looking bad guy in the whole series that we watched.
Oh yeah. There are no qualms with what he is, or there are no misinterpretations of what he's trying to do. He is the capital V villain of anything, any room he's in. Yeah, he's yeah. So like, and that's why I say when like Castor's Master dies, like Castor's Master doesn't deserve a name. He's dead. He deserves to be dead. So does Castor.
Well, more than just that, how do we feel about things overall then? Because that's that is those latter two episodes definitely cover much smaller scenes that occur. So there's not too much to chew on them there. I almost felt that like
more direct.
I really think a fourth episode would have helped, but just how long that first episode was, that's why I felt it was necessary to leave it off. Because you're watching 4 episodes worth already with 3.
Yeah. Well, I almost start to feel like for as much that happens, it also kind of is like tone pieces because it's just like a thing happens, but also we are just seeing like, we're seeing interactions, we're hearing people yell at each other. Like I said, it's a much better, it moves along at a much better pace because, everything is
happening.
Yeah, the styles of action and progression are much more mixed in a very satisfying way.
The other problem with this is they did the same thing. I know we said, what was it? One other show and Megas Bride did is where it's like, you'll start to have something happen at the end of one episode, but they'll cut it off and wait for the next. And then continue from there and setting up more things and cutting off. That's a personal gripe with mine. Is like sometimes you just want to watch a fight end and go on to the next episode. But yeah, I like their action. I feel it works when you have it. I think it's held up for, something that's, what, 12 years old now? Because this came out in, 2012, is that right?
Now, the thing about that, though, is we've seen older stuff.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, though, considering there's digital effects don't always hold up well.
And that is very true.
That's where
Movies from last year suck.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the fact that it held up. Like I said, I love me and my machinations. Give me all the machinations. but I mean that's obvious. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put it here. Bob.
I am torn on this one
Hmm.
because I'm kind of like Nick, where it's just, well, maybe not so much, but a little bit, which sounds like a really stupid sentence. When it comes to this show, it's a lot of stringing you along a little bit until we get to the action parts. That first episode is long.
Yeah.
It's extremely long, and it sets up so much stuff that you don't know where you're supposed to be looking. And I think it helps that the episodes are 7 parts of following 7 different people.
Hmm.
That it'll focus on 1, 2, or 3. Or it'll give snippets of other things, but really you're just focusing on one thing.
Hmm.
So I think it does that benefit. I feel like I agree. I'm going to continue this asterisk.
Fair. I'm
Because
curious. What's the asterisk?
it's if it kind of starts turning soap opera-y, then I'm out. Because
Fair.
this show needs to decide whether it's action-oriented or if it's trying to story it. And I feel like sometimes that's a hard line to walk, and maybe this show does. Maybe it, I know, like you said, the comparison to Game of Thrones is an unfair comparison. But in so much where you want a little bit of intrigue, I worry this show is going to bog itself down to try to look impressive.
Hmm.
So I'm willing to continue to watch it as long as it doesn't, what is the phrase, hoisted on its own petard?
Yeah. No, I completely understand. That's completely reasonable. Yeah.
Because it could be a decent, I suppose, show based on the drama with little bits of action. Or it could be great with the action of summoning your servants to duke it out in this almost tournament style show with little bits of drama. I don't want to have a combination that's trying to be heavy on both. Because then you either have to be really good or it's going to be really bad. And for viewers at home, I actually have not watched Game of Thrones, so I don't know if that's a good comparison or not.
Nick, Joe.
Would you like to have the last word, or?
Who, me?
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Oh. All right. I can. So I didn't
Like,
share.
oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
No, I was gonna say, like, we already know you don't like it.
Yeah. No. This is my part where I stop biting my tongue, I guess. Because like the thing is, as soon as we had the scene where we see Sakura in the like pit of worms, that's I almost literally just like walked away from this show. Like I was kind of like, and again, not offended at the thing I was being shown, but offended that the show decided to go there, because what you have is you have a girl, a younger sister, who was given away by her father to like what, someone else's grandfather in order to, or like it's like an uncle grandfather kind of deal.
There are 3 major families. That was one of the 2.
Grunkle
The
Stoke.
Einsburns, yeah. The Einsburns, the Matos, and the Tosakas. The Tosakas have been the most prosperous. The Einsburns genetically outed themselves from the gene pool. And the Matos are dwindling for reasons.
It's good that they're all dwindling, but
Yes.
the like you already have this girl who is in a very traumatic place. Like she's being handed around like a poker chip, without her feelings. She's being traumatized. She's away from her family. Like her and her family have been told, like, pretend your old family doesn't even exist. That will only make the hurt, harder if you remember them fondly. And like, that's all traumatic. That's all dark. To then literally be like, oh yes, and then I wrote, this was one of my last notes, is they use I used my special worm techniques and they have violated her entire body, and I'm just like, now you are just like, there is no, like, it is already someone being put through a traumatic thing. Now you are also doing like shock for the sake
now
of
it's
shock.
just like gratuitous.
Yeah, and like there's a way to, like, okay, you want to put worms in somebody because that's how you like create an artificial mage. Like they do that with this adult ass character, which, going back to the Kingdom Hearts thing, it's Uncle Riku, because they put bugs in him. That's all, the only thing I could think of after I got over the shock of that scene. But like, to show like her nude and catatonic in a writhing mass of bugs, that is not just to describe the sort of, you know, trauma that the girl is being put through. That is there to shock and disgust the audience. And that's what offended me about that scene. It's just like, because like everything from the first, like, you know, because earlier I was saying like, oh, I think this might be a better book because, you know, it's a lot of conversing, it is a lot of machinations, a lot of things being, the action of the show is things being described. But the other part of it is hearing all of these things said out loud from all the characters from the first moment when we're watching Uncle Mage Killer in, you know, being like, oh, I don't even deserve to hold my kid. Is she really my kid for the thing I'm going to do? I'm more like her enemy than her father. It's just like, the characters are so pretentiously written. It is like it's one thing when you spend the entire series building up things and we get to learn these people and we land with dramatic weight. And I know that's something we run into a lot on this show because we do watch broken up episodes and sometimes we go for those moments and they don't land because we don't have that. That's fine. This is minute 1 of this series, and like, okay, yes, it is a you know, it is a prequel, so like I said, it's they expect you to come in with some context, but like, even still, it is just like, from moment 1, it is like so pretentious and really up its own ass, and it's so dark. Like, this is, when I was reading about like, oh, what is the lineage of the series and all of that, and it was just like, oh, Fate Zero the anime has been like unanimously critically acclaimed, and I'm like, by who? Because this entire run of the show, I'm like, this is for and by edgelords. Every character, mage or not, is just like so, like, you said grimdark before, and I don't think you are off the mark with that. You know, I hear grimdark, I usually first thing I think of is 40K. But like, in 40K, generally there is this side of like, yes, the Space Marines are the bad guys, and there is a sort of there is an intent to have a level of tongue-in-cheekness about the Space Emperor and all of that. It's just like, yeah, no, we're supposed to know that they're the bad guys. In this show, like, if there is supposed to be that sort of same level of tongue-in-cheek of like, oh yes, no, we know you're supposed to think everybody is the bad guy because everybody's are the bad guys. Like, even if that is there, at no point did I see somebody who was the counter to be the contrast, the juxtaposition, to let you know. And here is kind of what, you know, even in Gankutsuo, we have our cinnamon roll who is there to be like, oh, watch, he is different, so we can watch him be, you know, corrupted by everything around him. Like, this show is just,
you
like,
need the foil to emphasize the
there's
badness.
there's no foil. And honestly, the amount of time they give these super dark edge, like again, they are made to be shockingly dark at all times to shock the audience into being like, oh, look at how dark and fucked up these characters are. And the time that they are given to linger and say all of their self-serious dramatic lines without anything in the show or the presentation or other characters or in the world questioning it, I'm just like, oh no, this show is presenting it as like, no, these characters are serious and dramatic and all of that. And I'm like, there is no tongue in cheek here. And it's just like, this show is like, I think this is a bad show. I think this is a bad show. I do not know who likes the show because I think that this show is bad. I think the story and the machinations and all of the stuff that you like about it, I think that is in there and it is good and is something to latch onto. It is something to follow. This is why I'm trying to give, you know, some sort of propers to the light novels and to some of the original source material, because like there is stuff in here that like is interesting and can be good, but the thing is that it is embedded in like it is just so up its own ass in a way that is like unbearable and kind of offensive to me about like what it's trying to do, why it's saying, why it's going there. Like this was a show, again, this is a prequel created to series that have had multiple remasters, re-releases, and spin-offs. It's like this show is coming in sort of knowing that the IP is critically acclaimed. I actually think it is sort of more head up its own ass than something like Game of Thrones, because that lives in the realm of prestige television, where it's like ever since we had The Sopranos, we've had this like tier of television that's just like, oh yeah, this is like some of the real shit. This is what's the Oscars but for television, the Emmys? Like this is Emmy bait, but like this is on a weird whole other level from even that, in a way that I think is more sort of just like the stench of the people working on this I don't even want to touch. It's just such an attitude to the show that it's like it is pushing me away. I don't want to interact with whatever you're offering me now because of the attitude with which you approach it and what you mix it with. Sorry, but this show made me that mad.
All right.
Uh-huh. That's my piece.
Joe, any thoughts?
I'm probably going to check out more of it just because I like Battle Royale stuff and animification of mythological figures.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll add one thing. I'm trying to be good this time. I am now interested in checking out the Fate Stay Night : Unlimited Blade Works movie, because my understanding is that
Really?
Well, my understanding is that was the movie came before the television show. It is based on like the Saber route of the original Fate Stay Night game.
Nope.
It is not. Oh, then it's the second
No.
route. Then it's the Lin route.
It's the Rin route, yes.
Okay, that's still, it's one of the original, like it's a straight up adaptation of the original game, rather than again this like third degree port of a light novel based on whatever. So I think that one may have been created in like have a lot of the same like systems and world concepts and even some of the same characters at play, but I think it will be not as full of itself. It is so I'm hopeful I'm probably going to go check that out. And then also, the movie, because even though turning it into a series means that they gave it more time to, dig into some stuff in there, but like we know how I am. I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
I'm gonna level with you. I'll be surprised if you like the film. It bad. It not good. It bad. It's got huge problems with it just as a film. We won't bother going into that. Fate Stay Night, the original series. It's on High Dive. It's certainly there. It is comparatively night and day, much lighter in tone. It's certainly fine. It's certainly a series. Unlimited Blade Works, the series, really is like the other really touted series. Does not go anywhere near as hard on the dark of this. What I have learned through my experience, there is a series of films for this, Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel.
Which
those
I'm to understand
which is the darkest timeline.
Yeah, it's based on the Sakura route.
And what I have learned over time before seeing those and even knowing they were coming out, yes, I did watch them out of curiosity. This Fate Zero definitely plays closer to that running through of the various routes, and it shows. This, I would say, because there's for people there in anime in general, when it comes to Fate, there's typically the question: okay, there's so much of it. Where do I start? Some would say, well, you start with Fate Zero. Others would say start with either Fate Stay Night or the Unlimited Blade Works series. I would honestly say probably Unlimited Blade Works series
Mm.
is probably the best starting point because it gives you probably just as much, if not more, good action sequences than Zero. Um, Same amount of episodes, if I remember correctly. Nowhere near as much, and because I'm not watching it because I haven't watched it in a few years. Rewatching it this time, I'll agree with you. Yeah, there's a hell of a lot of edgelord stuff because I think that's what made it really hard for me to kind of figure out what's going on the first couple of times I watched this. Just to full disclosure. And so yeah, I agree with you. Like even when I rewatched this episode just to pick episodes, like God, I didn't realize back then how much of an edgelord this guy was. I also really didn't pay attention to a lot of that edgelord, so I figured there was something they were trying to do. That remains. I won't, for others to decide on when they get to the end of the series. For Kritsugo. But yeah, there's this series goes super hard, super dark. With the exception of the Heaven's Fields movies, none of the others do. Um, this, like I said, we were putting this together. I figured this would be thrown on here. Like I said, this is what brought me back to anime because it wasn't just ha ha Naruto turned into a almost naked girl with clouds around her ha ha kind of anime. This is like, okay, we can be adult and tackle adult themes. Cool. Yeah, but again, hands down, you're right. There is a lot of edgelord crap.
And
For me, I can kind of push past it, but I get it. Everyone's mileage will vary with that.
eh,
So no, I completely understand where you're coming from with that,
yeah,
and that's a very fair assessment.
it's like I think it is sort of that thing, like because there is definitely like just an era of maturity that we all hit while growing up, where it's just like, oh, dark. We equate like dark and mature. We create, equate like disgusting and taboo with mature. But I think some of the best, works learn that it's like, no, it's about dealing with, mature themes does not mean fucked up. It
Mhm.
means like, oh, these are things that resonate. These are things that are usually a lot more like involves with like self-reflection because you've lived long enough to see about what you're doing. It is about like there are certain growths that everybody goes through, while they're growing up, but like eventually it's just like, okay, and then we reach this point and then it's, talking about Maslow and it's just like, okay, we figured out like family and stability, but what about self-actualization and what does it mean to have goals and wants? And that's all stuff that makes sense in this show between like, uh uh the character relationships, master servant, power dynamics. Everybody has a reason. It was the part of that scene where Lanter was talking to the girl on the roof, and they're like, "Oh, a servant who has no wants of the Grail, he must be lying." Like that is stuff in the show that I think is like adult. Or mature and serious topics to be covering, but I
Mhm.
really do feel like the show was made by people who never disentangled dark from mature,
I won't
and
necessarily disagree with
it's
you.
a shame. It's a shame because there it is also tackling good stuff, but it's just like
Yeah.
it really is summed up by we did not have to see the girl covered with bugs. That is for the like interesting theme there, that was unnecessary, but they did it anyway, and that kind of just that
Yeah.
is the feeling that recurs for me.
I get that. I will let you know the theme you're talking about with Lancer and the Wish of the Grail and so forth. That actually does, and that there is a whole episode I wanted to include here, but I was going to say there's just too much talking and there wasn't any real sign of the action. So, like I said, I wanted to give a smattering. I really wanted to show here involving 3 of the servants discussing the Holy Grail, just sitting, having a drink, discussing it. And it is probably, in my opinion, the best episode of this whole series.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I wrestled with it because again, I wasn't sure where to go with certain episodes. And like I said, I cut it only because like I don't really have any good action. I wanted to show more of Ryder because there are some parts, yes, Ryder is one of them. In that discussion, Ryder doesn't come off necessarily, in my opinion, as Ryder, but I get why he's the way he is. So I wanted to show kind of Ryder with Waver. And it's like my reasons are there.
Mhm.
Do I regret not including that? 100%. I would even be willing to, after we're done here, give you that episode. So maybe if you think you like it, maybe that you want to watch that one because it doesn't do the gross and etc. And I say etc. but just because I don't feel like we need to constantly
Yeah,
run them
sure.
out here. But no, I agree with you. Yeah, that first episode is 3.5 pills on a no pill diet kind of day. Not gonna lie. And like I said, for me, just again, part of the reason this drew me back into anime, I don't consider the grotesque necessarily necessary for mature. Just the fact that it was an anime that didn't have heroes, lowercase h heroes, protagonists, we'll say, characters that would be plot armored away from actual death. They actually dealt with death, not the gore of it, but it's like lives are fragile and can end, as opposed to years of just seeing anime where, oh, we're gonna punch you almost to death but leave you here to get better and come back with a new superpower. It was so radically different from what I'd seen before that it was enough to get me in to explore other anime. I will put it plainly here, this is not on my top 10. This might be in my top 20, but only because of the fact there are some good things discussed here, in my opinion, well past the first episode. So I'll be honest with you, I take no umbrage in any way, shape, or form with what you're saying, because yeah, it is a tough pill. And for viewers, yeah, if the things discussed here, if that's not your jam, by all means, skip it. This is not one of those anime you have to watch to get into anime.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
But no, I honestly appreciate you highlighting that there, regarding the bugs and everything, and all the problems, because yeah, I tried writing up something for it, but I felt almost like I was playing both sides of saying, yeah, of why I like this, but also why I hate parts of it. So I
Mhm.
really appreciate you bringing that argument's wrong turn, bringing that part of the discussion up.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't sound like I'm attacking, because it really is
No,
just
not at
this
all.
like, yeah, sometimes it's good to be pushed this far to make you think about what you value and what you respect. So if nothing
Hmm.
else,
No,
um,
I like I said, I genuinely value what you contributed to this.
okay,
If I didn't, I wouldn't say so.
yeah, and we probably wouldn't be here on the podcast.
Yeah.
And this was only the first of 5 shows in the existential crisis tier, so who knows where we'll go from here.
Right.
As long as you know, as far as this theme song goes,
Yeah. Which one? There were 2.
there were 2, and in all honesty, for me, even though there are 2 different songs, they fall in my head the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
Of, hi, I am Basic Anime. Here is Basic Anime song. I'm going to put it,
We're going to put it on our what?
our song list.
On our list. Yes, it's time to talk about the rankings. Thank you
Song
for the
list?
segue.
Hold on, Bob. You said our song list. Whose song list is this?
My song list.
There you go, buddy.
Sorry, I need clean key phrases so I can switch the scene in
I
OBS.
Make
So-
song go now.
Yes. Looking at the rankings, starting with what I consider the most important one, second most important one. would be our song ranking. And this one for me very clearly is basic. I'm putting it right in the middle. I'll put it at the new 14, pushing down Geki Gengar 3.
Really? Okay.
That's a lot higher. I won't lie.
Yeah.
I like both. I don't know why. They just strike a chord for me, no pun intended. But I really expect you to throw that a lot lower.
I didn't care for it, but I also recognize that it is the most vanilla of anime songs I've heard since we started watching this. It didn't have any sort of catch to it. It just
I see where you're coming from.
is. So I'm going to put it in the middle. It does not make the top 10. Doesn't move anything around. It exists. It's in the realm of it be.
Do you want to throw both there, just out of curiosity?
Both are fine to go there. I don't even remember the name of the other one. We had listed the
I
first
don't
one.
either. I like I said, I like them. I haven't listened to them probably in
That is
years.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I love that. Perfect. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, we continue our new trend of no android anime waifus.
Is a homunculus
No.
a flesh android?
No,
No.
nope.
I had to do it before Nick did.
I
Not
was
even a
going
runner-up.
I was going to say something else, but even I was too upset at the idea that I wasn't going to say it. So there you go.
Fair.
So as far as anime horses go, here's where I
Yeah.
am
We didn't
torn.
have horses. We had some oxen,
Listen,
it looks
we
like.
had Vespa.
We had
Oxen
Vespa.
are closer to horses than Vespa.
I'm debating, but the problem is I don't know whether to put this in the horse or with the pussyfoot. So I will need your guys' assistance with this one.
True.
Let
Why
me
not
ask
both?
this, Bob. Does it matter that
Riders,
is the Gordius wheel? It was a gift from King Gordius after after Alexander cut the Gordius knot. It exists there, and it's part of why he's called the rider class, because he has this chariot pulled by these oxen. That's why he's not a saber or a berserker in this instance. Not to say he couldn't be.
I think
Sure.
you just made a very important point, though.
Yes.
The chariot has the name. The oxen do not have names.
They
Yep.
do. I don't know what they are. They are not said here.
because of that, I think it ends up being more pussyfoot than horse.
You know, I'm okay with that
That sounds right to me.
because it's a technique or it's a special ability, not necessarily just they're always there.
And
One-
sorry, Count, but this one is going to take number 2 for me.
One thing I know about the Fate sort of expanded universe is that when it comes to the fighter classes, there is some like leeway and room for interpretation.
Mhm.
So riders are very good at motorcycles as well.
Well, there has to be some aspect of their myth or history that implies they're a writer. For example, spoiler: Medusa is in Fate's Stay Night / Fate's Stay Night Ultimate Abridged, and she's a writer, and they make a point of this in Fate's Stay Night because Pegasus, or I'm showing you how thin, to Nick's point, Pegasus was tangentially involved with the Medusa myth. So if you can associate something that one could write on, you can be a writer.
Makes sense to me.
Like the Lancer in Fate's Stay Night and the others that are contemporary with it, but other paths. That Lancer, I have read, has also been a caster.
I mean, this gets us back to the gotcha game. If you can have
Yeah.
one character, but they're listed under many different character classes,
Mhm.
that's just more content, baby. More microtransaction, please.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, my second biggest problem with this show is
Go for it.
there's no mysterious heroine X.
No, you have Mysterious Servant X.
Uh-huh. Oh,
I'm
she's-
just curious. Do you have any guesses to who
He
that
was-
might be?
He was riding that airplane.
Yeah,
was riding-
that servant could be a writer, whomever that is, male or female.
Mhm.
I'm just curious if anyone has a guess to who that might be. Just out of curiosity.
I don't do guessing.
Who
Okay,
the
that's fair.
servant is? I have no
Yeah.
idea.
All right.
That
I'm not gonna say.
was okay.
Amelia Earhart.
That'd be really good. It was
I
the
think Amelia
Lindbergh
Earhart-
baby,
Oh man, that would have been so much better.
famous
Also,
of
I think Amelia
disappearance.
Earhart is a servant.
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. Hang
the
on, let me go
writer
Google that
class.
one
I'm
too.
gonna say she would have to be a writer.
But that being said,
I think that really rounds out the rankings of what we had with what we were presented.
yeah. I mean, if you wanted to, you could throw Gilgamesh's weird spaceship that's somehow associated with his myth. I looked it up and then I rolled my eyes as a pussyfoot as well.
Nah.
Yeah, no, that's kind of how I feel about it. Just being silly.
Does that mean it's time to pick our show for next time?
I do believe so.
believe that is the only thing left.
Only 4 stars?
All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 options. Your choices are They're All Dead. Again! We have Terminally Online. Okay, but no, listen, really. We have Giant Meat Robots Shouldn't Be an Issue, right? And we have Remember That Marcy's Playground song, Sex and Demons? Yeah, this is gonna be a long night.
I like that song.
I'm going to go with one where I actually have a guess as to what the show is.
Oh,
I'm going to go with Terminally Online.
okay.
And because of watching an abridged series,
You're so
I'm gonna-
wrong.
it's not Sword Art?
No.
It is not Sword Art Online.
Oh.
That's a
You
great
have
guess.
chosen. You have chosen Serial Experiments Lane.
Is it about Post versus Kellogg's?
Serial like in murder.
Oh.
It's
Or like buses.
a lot like buses. It's Post, but like motherboard Post. That's a computer joke. Okay, listen.
Yeah, Bob
okay.
probably was thinking
I nod my
Indeed.
head. Yes.
the wheels on the bus go round and round.
I
I
feel
was too.
I feel a little on blast realizing that with Fate Zero out, I have kind of been the one
Cornered the
to
mark.
nominate all the existential crisis shows. We collaborated on one definitive entry.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
I
rest
didn't
is
put
my
it on
fault.
there because I knew someone else would.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is a Nick show.
See,
It
Yeah.
is.
It's very
I mean, I also endorse it, but it was his pick.
I have heard a lot about it,
Serial
never gotten around
Something
to it.
Lane. Maybe it's about bowling.
that would also be great. You know what? It is. We're gonna have a discussion about what this show is about next time on Deep into Weebs. While we look forward to that, it is time to draw today to a close. So thank you everyone for hanging out, and what's
Mages suck. Fuck them all.
Yeah, just don't fuck with bugs.
Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. Cotty 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.
Because okay, this is the part where I level with you. Every time I've watched this, I've just stared at the blank look in her face because it was genuinely horrifying to me. I never noticed she was nude.
really? Yeah, no,
Actually,
that
to
was
be
looking
honest,
for
I
that.
didn't notice that at all.
Yeah, that's not my
I was
focus.
just like,
My
it's
focus
dark and
is-
that's gross and ew.
Yeah, my focus is on her eyes and not looking at everything else on that floor with her.
Here's the thing. I looked at her eyes first, and I was like, I've seen that before. That is triggering other memories of things with that face. That's why I started looking around, and I was like, oh, great, it's worse.